listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast with your host, Andy Plymer. Bringing you up-to-date coaching concepts from the world of rugby. Sharing ideas to make the game better.
This episode of the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast is proudly brought to you by Rugby Analytics. Rugby Analytics is providing significant value to teams by giving players and coaches a transparent, non-biased way of measuring player performance. Coaches and players can identify strengths and weaknesses, as well as measure performance gains and losses week to week using their analysis. Send Rucky a copy of your game and they will do the heavy lifting. Rucky is the future of sports analytics. Find out more on rucky.com, ruckie.com, or look for them on LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube. Hi coaches, hope everyone's doing okay during these pretty unique times around the world. I just wanted to pass on a quick message to encourage all coaches just to hang in there and to think about one of the values of rugby, which is solidarity. This is a pretty unprecedented time in our lives, and I think we need to show solidarity within the rugby community around things like shutting down our programs, making sure that we're practicing really good social distancing, that we're not engaging with our athletes in person, in small groups, one-on-one, anything like that. Doesn't mean we can't stay connected with them, and that's probably where we've really got to step up as coaches and be leaders. And that's, reaching out to our community, reaching out to our players, reaching out to our coaches that we work with, and just seeing if someone needs a hand. Do they need a chat via Skype? Is there a way that you can boost them up? How creative can we be with our coaching and with our leadership during this time? So, we know our players well. We know the players who might need a little bit of extra help during this time. So let's make sure that they're getting the attention they need. This is where you can really engage your leadership group as well. So, hang in there, keep doing the right thing. Remember solidarity, remember social distancing. Use this time to really knuckle down on your leadership skills and making sure your community, your tribe's doing well. All right, cheers. All right, welcome to episode number 78 of the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. I'm your host, Andy Plymer, and joining me today is Jim McKay. Jim is the attack and assistant coach at the Queensland Reds. He was previously with the Reds from 2009 to 2013, where they were successful in winning the Super Rugby Championship in 2011. Since that first stint with the club, he has gone on to have coaching roles with the Wallabies, Kobelco Steelers in Japan, as well as a number of consultancy positions. It's a pleasure to have him on the show, so welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Andrew. Pleasure.
Yeah, no worries. Good to chat, and it's a pretty exciting time in Aussie rugby right now. So we'll chat about that, no doubt, down the track. But what's your rugby backstory, playing backstory, and how'd that end up getting you into coaching?
I grew up on the northern beaches in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah. And
my club was Moringa.
Yeah.
And
Mighty Rats.
I played all my junior rugby there, and Moringa Rats. And then I played Colts there, which was a fantastic period of time, under 19s, under 20s.
Yeah.
And I played grade there. Our coach there was a guy called Rod McQueen.
Oh, yeah.
Who some people will be familiar with.
For sure.
And then I went to Randwick Rugby Club.
Mm-hmm.
It was all amateur. And also I had in between, in the latter stage of my career, 1 year at Gordon Rugby Club in Sydney. So what was interesting there, Andrew, was that I played first grade and second grade at all those clubs, which is a privilege. But each club was club champions. So what I learnt there, my influence there, was the importance of the club. So if every team from the Colts to the grade had an importance to play for the greater cause, which was the whole club itself. So, for example, at Moringa, we played pretty much a 10-man rugby, but we were successful at that. Yeah. And we trained hard, we were very fit, and a bit of a chip on our shoulder, but trying to prove other people for our significance as such. But we were, and like I say, club champions. Then we go to Randwick, completely different playing philosophy, a total self-belief in the way the game can be played, all through the grades and all through the Colts and of running rugby. So, and that was successful as well.
Yeah.
Then Bob Dwyer was our coach there, and rest in peace, Jeffrey Sale as well. And then you go to Gordon, a guy called Chris Hawkins was our coach, and that was the first time I was exposed to more strategy, so changing tactics for different teams and games. So I was very privileged to be a part of successful clubs, but it opened my mind to showing that there's a different way to achieve that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, yeah, you couldn't get two different outlooks there, Randwick and Warringah. Like, that's kind of like Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere styles almost. But still, there's no right way or wrong way to play rugby, and both teams found ways to win.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And what about coaching? Who tricked you in the coaching out of all those coaches? You got a few good ones.
Randwick, it was obviously I was always amateur.
Yeah.
And so it was during the period of time, some of the superstars, the Ellas, the Campeses, and all these sorts of guys were starting to get interest to go to Italy or France, and so they were starting to go there. And I had this a guy called John Collins actually came and asked me if I would like to go and play in England. And I'd never been away out of Australia, and a bit of the Insular Peninsula down on the northern beaches, and I thought, why not? And so I went over to a club called Stourbridge, which was like Division 5, and so it was a player-coach role. So that's how it started, and it just opened my eyes to so many things, a different side of rugby, more so probably the enjoyment, the club environment, and I just started coaching there, and I ended up spending. I did come back to Australia for a year or two, but I went back to England, and I spent 15 years over there, starting in Norwich, North Walsham, who London won National League 2 South, so come from quite far back, and I just enjoyed giving teams the belief, and I was exposed to all this promotion, relegation, cup game, the pressures of clubs with owners, and home and away, the weather, and so it was just a wonderful opportunity to coach overseas. And because I started so far back and down, I learnt many lessons along the way, and it was a really good grounding in my coaching background. Yeah,
cool. That's actually how I started coaching, was a player coach as well, and very, very challenging. How'd you find that player coach role? I think it's maybe personality driven too, like how different people handle it. What was your experience?
Yeah, I sort of soon worked out that I could possibly be a better coach than player.
Yeah, that was the same.
I put everything into my playing and tried hard and that, and played with a lot of other good players. But I just love the coaching aspect of trying to give teams belief and play in a certain style, and coming from Australia at the time, we're quite skill based, emphasis on skills and a game based approach. So that was all a wee bit foreign in England at the time. So it was just a wonderful experience there, particularly. During the day I'd be doing youth development or going around to schools. Yeah. So all that sort of stuff helps. And then, for example, I'm at North Walsham, who incidentally just had a players' reunion last week, which was wonderful to see. But anyway, so I'd be there training, and then I've got 55 on my own. Yeah. And then for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, there's all half the team's not turning up because it's harvesting season. You know, they're all working on the farms, or then when I'm at Henley for a couple of weeks, the people would be late or not there because they're working in the city. So you soon realise that, you know, there's other things in life and the different things that you have to learn and adapt to coaching at that level. But that all was a really good grounding for me, working out where the clubs are at. You got the off-field, you got the players, you got the club itself, and you got to be all in alignment. And that's what I just assumed you want to win all the time and get progress. But some clubs weren't set up for it or weren't ready for it, or so I learned a lot of really important lessons all the way through at every different club, really.
Yeah, that's great. Well, in that chat there, you mentioned a bunch of really well-known coaches. Were there any coaches who were big influences to shape your coaching philosophy now, as it stands? Who are some of the biggies?
The main influence around the playing was, as I mentioned before, the different clubs that I was at playing style. But the main thing I've learnt from is really losing is a strong motivator, because you want to get better, because you don't want to lose. But the players themselves is the biggest influence you get, I reckon, and that's what was good in them formative years. And nothing's really changed, to be honest with you. Yes, professional clubs have more resources and more technology and all that, but at the end of the day, you've got to understand your players, where they're at, and we're not on the field, so you got to be able to empower them to make decisions on the field. So, for example, when I used to coach, I was on my own, and they're almost player coaches themselves. The line-out guy, he used to run the line-outs. The front row guy, he used to run the scrums. So it actually worked really well. And then you fast forward 25 years, and we're sort of trying to do the similar sort of things to hand over for them guys to look at the videos and for them to make decisions on the field. So for me, it's sort of come a full circle. But so apart from the players, I've known Bob Dwyer has been pretty good there. I've known him since my Randwick days. He's a good guy to talk with about technical stuff and the principles of the game. So he's been really good. There's a guy called Bede, and also a guy called Renzi from a company called Gazing High Performance. Right. They work with the All Blacks and a few other leading organisations. So they're more on the mental side. So they've mentored me for over 20 years now. Wow, great. Just along the lines of about being on task or off task. So that they've been really influential and a great sounding board. And then I'd been coaching for a long time, 15 years, and then I decided I wanted to go to university to learn more about it and get some accreditation, I suppose. Yeah. And there's a lady there at Sydney University called Dr. Donna O'Connor, and she's the coach educator there. So she's been really influential in as well. So there's a few other people, like obviously Ewan McKenzie. Yeah. Worked with 6 years, day to day for 6 years. So he was a really experienced coach, and at the end of the day, he gave me my opportunity at Super Rugby level. So I'll always be indebted to that. And he was a really smart guy and well organised. And in that coaching team, there was Matt Taylor, Damien Marsh as well. So we all worked really well together. And then I suppose the only other ones is really overseas. I've got to know Stuart Lancaster as well. Yeah. We have good chats. He'd come and visit me in Cornwall. Yeah, nice. And we'd catch up. And then Dean Ryan as well, I worked with at Worcester. So, right. There's a few guys there that got some good experience. And, Yeah, I had Stuart Lancaster on the pod, and easily one of the most popular episodes for sure for listeners. He's doing some good stuff on LinkedIn as well around leadership and some of the more soft skills. Yeah. Cool. Like I mentioned in the intro, coaching attacks your specialty. When you first meet up with a group, you mentioned a few different styles there of play when you were playing. How do you go about looking at a team and designing their attack based on what you've got on the ground? Rugby's this wonderful game. If you've got 15 players from different shapes and sizes, and the aim of it's to be all coordinated together. So that brings a lot of challenges in itself. But at the end of the day, Andrew, I just got this image of a total rugby, of a positive game to play. So you've got to have positive intent in the spirit of the game, and you've got to be positive about it. So and you want to play a positive style of rugby that's going to be efficient, successful, and it's going to entertain people. And yes, winning's important, but if you can win and play in a way that entertains and the players enjoy, surely that's going to help. Now that's quite a general thing and an ideal sort of outlook, but nonetheless, I want to play. Got this image of a positive style of rugby. So to get that in, you got to be telling them that we're going to run the ball. So, and then how we do that, you got to set up. The first thing we look at is a clear game model. So this is how we're going to play. This is our framework. That's the first thing. Then within that, just get in a few key principles of the game. Remind them of, like, obviously win the ball, go forward, retain the ball, play to space. So that's the principles of the game at any level.
They don't change.
That's just rugby. So you don't want to deviate too much from them things. And then the last thing is you'll get some of your own specific principles in. So, for example, don't run out. What does that look like? Or when we going forward, we want to try and do this. Or if we haven't gone forward, how do we generate go forward ball? So they're all just really principles of the game that you need to do well at. And then the other thing is mainly playing a game-based approach to training. So when you're training, for example, using a game-based approach, but put some constraints in. So if you want to work on your passing game, you've got to pass twice. Or if you want to work on kicking, play a game, but you've got to kick or whatever it's going to be, So it's always competitive and it's contextual to the game. So you've got defence, attack, and so you've got some decision-making involved as well. Yeah,
no, that's key. And I think, knowing that you did that, Coach, the degree at was it Uni of Sydney?
University.
Yeah. So that's obviously coming from there, from that sports coaching academia side, and I find that stuff fascinating. That's the stuff I really, gets me fired up about, designing session plans and things like that. But I also wrestle with the, continual skill development around that, but also, how do you make sure you're attacking structures and there's cohesions with 15 players, but also that one player and working on your skills? How do you balance that?
I think so you got the role clarity, so you can refer to that, the basic framework. So that's your structural side. So then within that, you got your skill set. So sometimes you might have to break off an element of the game, for example, short side attack, and you might design a practice that elicits more short side attack against defence. So you can do more some repeat scenarios of that, but allowing the players to find their own outcome rather than a prescribed outcome, which you tend to get from drills. So, like you say, you might design the practice, the short side attack, but you keep going, and they'll let the players discover and find their own solutions to that. As long as they're adhering to your principles of your game, allow them to explore and be creative and keep working on their skill set. So, on that note, a lot of the game possession, for example, is you get half your possession from sort of unstructured, say, kicks or turnovers.
Sure.
Does your practice reflect that, which can appear messy or chaotic at times, but also to allow practice to, if there is a mistake, play on,
Absolutely.
Like play off the turnover. So you've got two sides of the ball, it's competitive. And then the players just without realising it, learning to adapt and play off stuff like that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all my games I always offer double point tries for any turnover ball if they score it within 2 phases. Because for sure, like between 40 and 50% of the points are coming from that turnover play, and it's just that coach instinct often is to blow the whistle, where it's probably the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Well, that's right, Andrew. You sound like you're on the ball there, but also that's within your coaching team, having a similar approach to practice like that. So you obviously normally got, for example, a attack defence coach or whatever it's going to be, or forwards backs, but having an understanding with the other coaches that for this section of training, or this is how we want to do it. So the risk is if you're just an attack coach and you're doing attack, but if it goes wrong, you stop it.
For sure.
Want to get back. Depends what you're trying to get out of training, but there's attack defence, and then there's the transition, like say game model. Your defence to attack, and then defence to attack as well. Is like them transitions is a really important part of the game. So. Definitely at certain periods of time in training, you must allow for that to evolve and happen.
Yeah, cool. All right, and what about field position? That's always if you're looking at the field and you got it broken down into vertical lines or in horizontal lines. How do you look at that in terms of dictating the style of attack? Will you have a couple of options A, B, and C, or will you be more prescriptive in this part of the field where we're absolutely doing this, or is it a bit of both?
Well, if you cast my memory 5 years back in Cornwall, and every home game you're playing with a howling wind,
it's going to influence it,
and that's obviously a mitigating circumstance. But all things being equal, though, it's interesting to say the vertical lines looking up the field, which is something we've done here at the Reds this year. So looking at when we come off the sideline, where we're trying to get to, for example, 10, 15 or 20 metres, whatever it's going to be. And what that allows. So, for example, there's a short side opportunity there, or attack open. So, and then as well, if you were to get to the middle of the field, what does that allow? So I love to be able to attack both sides of the ruck, which is a thing we sort of had a reputation for back in the day at the Reds, 2009 to 13, where there was movement and flow. I call it like an orchestra or like a dance. All the players are in motion and in harmony, and there's movement in your attack. But there's both sides of the rucks where a threat, so that's what I mean. We can change direction at any time. So them markers like 20 metres or 50 metres are really, really important to get to. Then if we look at the field from our try line to their try line, you can have your base principles, but that can change each week as well. So, for example, we're going to kick 5 metres from a line, or next week it might be from 40. We want to have more of a kicking game depending on who we're playing. But essentially the things to think about from a coach education point of view is when you're attacking, say from your third, if one was to think about it, they have a front line of attack, but they also have to have what, Andrew?
The defence or the...
Yeah, the defence. So say I'm asking you, we're attacking from our line and you're defending.
Yeah, they're going to have a back three.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that means one would argue that that's the better time to run.
Yeah.
Because there's more opportunity.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Bob Dwyer says this as well, if your skill level is high enough, there isn't as much a risk. Like you just got to, if you're good at your skill and execution, shouldn't really matter where you attack from.
Yeah.
So that's one consideration. There's more space to run from your own line. And then the further up you get the field, it can get more challenging. So, for example, when you get in the opposition 22, so normally the intensity goes up and there's more defenders in the front line. So the other considerations as well to answer your question, running from different field positions is the strength of your line out, the strength of the opposition line out. So we played the Jaguars the other week, and it was more from conceding penalties, but their line out was very good and their line out more. So in the second half, that's how they ended up chasing us down and then going on and winning the game. So that's a consideration. The strength of your opposition defence. So we played the Sharks last week in the Super Rugby, and very, very good defence and contested the breakdown. So
yeah, they went hard.
We needed to kick more. So it depends on the strengths and weaknesses of your team and the other team as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's some really good info there. And it's an interesting one there about you touched on the set piece there. How going back to attack, how closely are you aligned with what your scrum coach is doing and what your line-out coach is doing, and where you're getting your source of possession, I suppose, for attack and different launches in different parts of the field?
Yeah, so that's right. Very important, the chemistry and the relationships within the coaching team, how we want to be perceived as a team, the strengths of our team. But at the end of the day, rugby, principle number one, you've got to win the ball. So that's more a case of how can we best win the ball from set piece.
Yeah.
And again, this comes back to my European experience, 15 years coaching over there. The importance of the set piece was just critical, and how you can manage a game, and also the importance of the other team's set piece as well. So trying to deny them line-outs or what that looks like as well. So, but anyway, so you've got to how are you going to win the ball? So we're going to win it easier off 7-man line-outs or short line-outs, and then I'll tend to ask that question to them coaches, and then I'll work off that. So if they say we're going to win it in these line-outs, particular lengths, more so, or for example, if they got fast line speed, we might think about our delivery. So down and give, or off the top, or so, and then also critically having the 9. So whether we deem number 9s as something that Scott Johnson's talked about, which I agree with, is your 9 a scrum, a half forward or half back? So often you look at the forwards and backs might train in isolation, but I believe when you look closer, the delivery off the set piece, whether it's 8-9 or the delivery, is almost equally as important to get your back line going. So that's another key consideration there. Yeah,
cool. And there's so many moving parts, like you say. It depends on the opposition of the day. It depends on your players, and you throw an injury in there as well, and that changes everything up a little bit as well.
Yeah. So that's right. And the different challenges. It being the Super Rugby tournaments, and even back in England, that championships. I was coaching the championship for 10 years without actually coaching the premiership, but it's like 35, 40 games a year, and cups, promotion, relegations, different weather conditions, different sorts of teams. Really, really great grounding around coming up with strategies, how to counter. I remember Plymouth, Graham Dorr there, they had a fantastic maul. They had maul all over the field,
Yeah.
How do you cope with that, or win that, or beat that? So, set piece and how you use the ball is a big one. So that relationship with the set piece coach is vitally important.
Yeah, cool. And we're seeing a lot of the defences getting more and more structured every season, and line speeds like insane with some teams. And what are some advice for coaches with regards to managing an opposition's defensive line speed, or if they're trying to break a really well structured defensive line? What are some of the things that coaches could be thinking about there?
I think you're right what you say. Certainly how I coached as say a playing philosophy or an attack philosophy has had to evolve or adapt over time. So even this is my second time back at the Reds. What I've noticed is that I'll get to the answer in a minute, but what I've noticed is that, yes, defences have not only incrementally improved, but a lot. They've improved a lot over, say, the last decade, and they continue to improve. So, and also the players, how they've been coached. So my guy, our average age is 22, I think, or 21 and a half, which is actually the lowest in the whole comp. But we don't actually mention that. I'll talk about that. But it's like how them guys have been coached the last 10 years, normally within a school system, which will be quite structured from and regimented from an attack perspective. So they're used to that sort of structure approach, and then you've got defences as well that have improved a lot. So, which certainly challenges your skill set. So you need to have a balance. The first thing is, I tell the boys, there's always a weakness. For every strength, there's a weakness. If you have a up and out defence, that's a strength, but there's a weakness. If you have a fast line speed, that's a strength, but also there's a weakness. So you've got to be able to understand the weaknesses. And for example, you might play into the rush defence and then go again at them, so they can't keep coming up. You get quick ball, which all comes back to the principles of the game. You've got to win the ball, then you've got to go forward, and if you can create quick ball, lightning quick ball, and keeping the ball alive, the defence can't get set. That's just the basic core principles of the game that what we used to do around Wick, and that I believe are really important. So, for example, offloads, quick rucks, attacking both sides of the ruck. So our attack aim is to go at the defence. They're not coming at us. So, but if you get slow ball, conversely, they're trying to slow it down. So you need to get a balance of then suddenly making the game more unstructured or a bit chaotic. So, for example, kicks, if there's turnovers and quick taps, and you got to find their weakness. So there's always a weakness. So, for example, maybe you get to the middle and then you can go short side, or they can't defend everything. So you need to keep asking questions, which again challenges your skill set. And it probably comes back to my last point on the topic, is that if the players have only known a structured system, what we've worked hard on here is that, and because we do have a young profile group, is their education around the game, around problem solving, or like you say you're playing against a team with really fast line speed. What are we going to do? How do you or they don't give you a line out ball, or so. In fact, we spent quite a lot of time this year in the off season workshopping some stuff and the education around that. Whereas in the old days, and again I'll come back to my European experience, you come against all different styles of teams and weather conditions, and I think naturally you learn to evolve and adapt and be exposed to them sort of different scenarios.
Yeah. No, I agree. I having watched the game against the Sharks, I knew you were going to mention offloading at some stage in this interview, because I think it's the first thing I coach a team is around the principles of play, and then offloading before rucking. I think at one stage it was 10 offloads to 1 against the Sharks in that first half. So that must have made you pretty happy.
Yeah, well, we've last year we were where we're at, and we're building and getting our base game in. But we actually recorded the least amount of offloads in the whole competition last year.
Okay.
So that's actually not a reflection of how I like to attack. But this year, after 5 games, and probably the process started, I coached NRC this year with Brisbane City, and I said, listen, this is how we're going to play. We're going to enjoy it, and this is how we're going to play. And that probably started the catalyst for starting it with this group. And now, as we currently speak anyway, we not only scored the most tries, but we've actually the highest amount of offloads in the comp. So it's quite a paradigm shift. in how we're playing. So, but again, around your offload, Andrew, as you'd know, sounds like I'm preaching to the converted here, but
I love it though. I'll talk about it all day.
You got to have some principles around it, some rules. So, whatever your rules are around it, like win the collision, sight the target, got to be a good pass, and then you can measure it. So that comes back to your principle of the game. Yes, we can offload, but there's some rules around it, and you can practice it in design little games that elicit offloads, but just making sure you're adhering to your principles of it, whatever it is. Or it might be 2-pass game, offload game, creating quick ball game, whatever, finishing game, whatever you want to do, but have an attack defence, and just put some a game base, but have some constraints on the practice. So by that, what I mean there, the constraints is you might put a couple of guys in yellow bibs and they've got to get touched twice. So you're actually encouraging offloads. But the big thing as well is the support play as well. So
for sure,
we've worked really hard on the principles of supporting the ball carrier. They make a huge impact to your game. Support, the nearest support around the ball carrier is really, really critical, which often gets overlooked or not coached. So
I totally agree. They've got to be 30 centimetres away from the ball carrier, not 3 metres, for it to be an offload, like a good offloading game. And I think there was a couple of clips going around. The Rebels seem to be doing a little bit of it as well, and all the Aussie teams seem to be doing more offloads now than in the past. I didn't know that stat about you guys last year compared to this year. But yeah, I think if there was one area of the Aussie game that I'd like to see more of is absolutely that, because when it's on, it's devastating. But I think at the same time, coaches are so hesitant to coach it because they feel that it's just going to result in giving up possession. But I just think you can work around that with the concept of offloads. It's got to be 100% offload. It can't. If you look to offload it and you don't offload it, you've still done a good job. You can't just be giving the ball away just because you're allowed or you're encouraged to offload.
That's right. Yeah. So you offloading. Often now you got to go through defences because they are well organised. So you have to go. You can always go over the defence. You can go around the defence, or you can go through them. So obviously, offload is a way to go through the defence. But the good thing of it is that it keeps the ball alive, so it doesn't allow the defensive line to get set, and then they can press fast on you. So it's the same with quick ball, producing quick ball. Yeah, you can almost play on top of the defence, which is the aim. But they're trying to do that to you as well. So. Yeah. It's a real arm wrestle there around speed of. I think speed of people talk about the gain line, which is important, but speed of ball is equally or if not more important. Yeah. Because if it's a fast recycled or keeping the ball alive, then you keep like jab, and you'll end up getting a weakness in your way. Yeah. So. But then if it does become slow, you need some principles around, which happens because you've got good defence, but you've got to have some principles around how do we generate quicker ball, and then or do we kick, and what that looks like. So these come back to your principles of your game, really.
Cool, awesome. And what about that grassroots coach out there? That's me, and that's probably a bunch of the listeners who they might see their team twice a week. They probably get to spend maybe an hour of that week on attack. What advice would you give them for how they go about it?
Well, there's two things. Bloody good on you for out there coaching.
Yeah, and, for sure.
It's a wonderful game at all sorts of levels. Sport and rugby meant to bring people together, and there's some of the lessons I learned very much so in my formative years in England. I was very serious about the winning, but you learn that it is about bringing people together. So well done for being involved. I think. The advice, there's two things as well. So the first thing is, even if you are an aspirational coach, So I remember when I had my test match, we played against England at Twickenham, and I was with the Wallabies, and after the games, and Stuart Lancaster and Andy Farrell presented me with a signed England shirt, and Kevin Bowring as well, who was the head of coach education there at the time. And they presented me with a signed shirt and said, Jim, you've been here, you started so far down the levels in English rugby, and we see you as an English developed coach. And so my message there, even if you haven't played international rugby, and no matter how low you start, so I started down in London 1 teaching at schools and a bunch of farmers and all that, you can still get to where you want to get. So that was the first message. And they said that. They said, you're a great example of that you can get there if you're determined enough and that. Now that was one thing to message to all the coaches out there.
Awesome.
If that's the way you're inclined or whatever. I've made some mistakes along the way and all that sort of stuff, but and rugby's not the most important thing. But anyway, the second thing is make it fun. Yeah. Like it's and that's a huge message for whatever level you're coaching, really. But whatever level, ability, boys, girls, make it fun. And you've got to be organised with your sessions, which helped me as well. Like I said before, you plan training and then your front row wouldn't turn up for a month because it's harvesting season. You don't know these things. So you've got to be able to be planned but then adapt as well. So, and then and I just encourage you as well to make it a game-based. The kids always say they want to play a game. So if you can do skill games or make it like a game but incorporating your skills, and make it competitive as well, keep a score, and then implicitly they're learning stuff without realising it. Yeah. Whereas when you see a drill-based or structured patterns, is it really relevant for kids or any age really, just when they're trying to learn or develop? So, and like I say, game-based approach, just put some rules around the game depending on what you want to achieve, make it competitive, and allow to play off mistakes because that's the reality of the game. Yeah. And did I mention fun? Yeah. I did. So you got to enjoy it, you know. Yeah. And after the game, shake the hand of the opposition, invite them into the dressing room, and if you've got a clubhouse, spend some time in the clubhouse because sport and rugby is meant to bring people together. So
for sure,
it's a wonderful life lessons there, and the friendships you make. They're long lasting. You don't sort of realise till you stop playing, but it's a bloody good game for bringing people together.
Absolutely, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that fun aspect, it's amazing how many guests I have on the pod like talk about that, and it's so important. You know, it's like especially like you said, it doesn't matter what age because you know coaching senior rugby, it's like that guy might have had the shittest day of his week at work, and he doesn't want to have 2 more hours of grief. He wants to come and unload, or she wants to come and unload in a rugby context and have fun and you know play and not stand in line behind a cone or you know be hit with a tackle bag or anything like that. You know they want to get stuck in and play the game. So yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And that comes back to the club, and that's some of the lessons I learnt early on. I just assumed that we want to win, like we've got to win, but the players, some of the clubs I was at, they weren't quite ready. They got the idea, but they weren't quite, they're not set up to get, because one of the clubs, for example, if we were to get promoted in England, that means that the travel would almost triple all over England because they were playing in a regional comp, like West, which is one area. But then if they went national, their travel would triple. B, the cost for the club would double, which they weren't really ready for. And then C, they've all got jobs. So they weren't really set up for that, some of the clubs. So you need to be in alignment. And so work out, if you're coaching a school or mini juniors or an adult team, work out what are boys or girls or what are we about? What do we want to do? And how do we want to go about it, you know? So we want to play a certain way. We want to enjoy it, whatever it is. So it's all bespoke, which means it's specific to each club. You can't just assume as a coach that
Yeah.
this is what we're going to do and this is how or why. But you got to take some appreciation of where the club's at. Like the Reds, for example, at the moment, we're a building club that's heading up, but there's a journey to go. So
yeah,
so that's it. This is where we're at. But
yeah, you can't skip the steps.
Wherever you're coaching, though, whatever level, another thing I'd say to all the coaches, especially grassroots, is just stick to the principles of the game about teaching them how to pass the ball, support play. You know, the basic principle of the game: winning the ball, going forward, retaining the ball, then how we want to use it. And if you don't deviate from them too much, you're going to be going all right, and then to enjoy it afterwards.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. All right, well, before I get to the final four questions, it's exciting times with Aussie Rugby right now of a new Wallabies coaching staff. What contact have you had with the coaches, and what are you looking forward to about the new changes?
I think it's probably a good time for the freshness of a new coaching team, which is exciting.
Yeah,
and that's good. And the main people at the moment, well, there's four: Scott Johnson, and then Dave Rennie, Matthew Taylor, and Scott Wiseman. Also, I actually know, especially Matt, having worked with him before, and Scott well, and when I was with Kobelco Steelers, we had a relationship in Japan. We had a relationship with Chiefs, and Dave was there then. So I can only say, from a personal level, there's three really good people there.
Yeah.
And when I say good people, like good rounded people and rugby people. When I say that, they're experienced in rugby in a few different competitions. And so I think that mix will be really healthy and bring good energy to Australian rugby. So they're personal people, so it'll be good. And they've got some experience there as well in different competitions, which I think is useful. So, for example, Europe, Super Rugby, across some different levels of the game. So I think that it's, they've got around to all the provinces here, and they're approachable. And I think there'll be some good bridges built there between the provinces and the national team, which can be, having worked at the national team before, can be challenging at times. But there's some good people there. And I think it's going to be, it bears well for the future. Yeah,
I'm pretty excited as a fan. So can't wait for the Bledisloe to get here. That'll be pretty awesome. All right. Well, we always end the show with the same final four questions. First question: when you were a kid and you first got into the game, first got excited about it, who was one of those players who really got you interested?
I think. I can only remember when I was really, really little, waking up early and watching the Grand Slam tours.
Yeah.
As a kid, it was always like in England, obviously, so the time difference was big. So Mum used to. My mum was a huge influence on me, but she'd wake me up half asleep, and then wake me up again, and I missed most of the game, but. Them Grand Slam tours and the history of the game, the history and the tradition of the game, of the watching the Australia play, that very strongly resonates with me. And then also, so when I went to Randwick, particularly to play with the Campeses and the Ella brothers,
that's awesome.
The Poitimans and all the team there, but it was probably just a different level of skill and a way of looking at the game and approach. So them guys, it was pretty inspirational to be around them and showing that how the game could be played in a certain way and a certain skill and mindset. So that was really impressive for me. That stood out for me, and I've never forgotten that. As I've said, the lessons I learnt from Moringa as well around hard work and collective club environment. Like everyone is valued, from the groundsman to the shirt man or the doctor. Everyone plays a part in the club and needs to feel valued. So that was some very good lessons from Moringa.
Cool. And what about now? Second question: Who are some of the players around that you like watching, whether it be in Australia or in Northern Hemisphere or elsewhere?
Yeah, I was thinking about the answer here, and that Colby, the guy, the South African,
playing,
actually,
Cheslin Colby,
he electrifies things up, and I think he's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I really like the way Toulouse play at the moment.
Right.
And that's what I based a lot of my coaching philosophy on around there. How they used to play with support play, keeping the ball alive.
Yeah.
Players in motion. So I enjoy watching them.
When they won the Heineken Cup, they were unreal. That group of players. Yeah. That the style of game they played.
Correct.
Yeah.
And but to be honest with you, I like watching our Reds players play. I get great joy out of seeing them do well, and giving them belief. So I get the most joy out of my players.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When they do something well, because I sort of hear you have a bit to do with them, and obviously they can do a lot more than what I could do. But to giving them the belief and the encouragement, and to see them do well and grow and improve, that's probably the biggest joy I get out of when I watch my team play.
Yeah, cool, awesome, love it. Third question then: we've talked quite a bit about coaches here, and who's a high profile coach that you like what they're doing and like how they run their teams?
Well, there's two, if I may say, that I'd like to mention. And there's obviously a special mention to Ewan, who I worked with for 6 years.
Yeah.
I've talked about him already.
Yeah.
There's two guys. So first one's Stuart Lancaster, who I've known for a long time. We used to coach against each other when he was at Leeds and I was at Cornish Pirates and all them teams. But actually, special mention to Cornwall. Very proud of my Cornish heritage.
Love it.
The Celtic stuff down there, the singing after the games. That was just wonderful. So coaching at an environment or a team that you have a connection with, you're playing for the people, like a place. And Cornwall, all the clubs I felt that I'm at, but especially Cornwall, that was just awesome. So I'll never forget that. Cool. But anyway, getting off the topic a bit there.
It's all good.
But Stuart Lancaster, so seeing him come through, we always talked about football. Like I said, he come to visit me in Cornwall a few times. We've kept in touch. He acknowledged my journey as well when we played against each other. But then he obviously left England, but then he's managed to not reinvent himself, but stay strong and come back and have success at Leinster. And at heart, he's a real coach, like on-field coach. And he was humble enough to learn lessons, and he still wants to always learn and grow. So I really respect him for what he's done, but also how he bounced back from his situation.
For sure.
And then the other one's Brad, who I'm working with now, Brad Thorne. So young, amazing documented playing career. They asked him to do the job here. And for what he's done culturally and his vision, is I really, really respect him for that. I'm playing a supportive role, but we're right behind him, and it's been a lot of things that happened the last 2-3 years here that are pretty challenging and tough. So first go at head coach, it's not easy. So I admire him for thick skin and learning quickly on the job, and he's a really good man, and I'm privileged to be working with him, so I really admire him as well.
Awesome, cool. And then last question: who's someone in the grassroots around your area in Queensland that deserves some recognition and a bit of a shout out?
There's a couple of guys in Queensland. There's a guy called Elton Berange, who's been at University of Queensland for over 10 years.
Right.
He was my assistant at NRC City this year, and he did a fantastic job. But that's someone who's plugged away Colts and mini juniors, and he's just didn't clubland. It can be tough to get an opportunity if you are that way inclined at the next level. But he's someone there, and then another guy, Nick Fogarty. He's coached, I think, for over 15 years in all sorts of levels in Brisbane competition. But the other main one's a guy called Brad Free, who runs used to play for Queensland. He played at Ulster and Saracens, scrum half.
Right.
But he runs a thing called C2K, which is Caps to Kids. It's a voluntary rugby academy, and there's over 300, 400 kids turn up on a I think it's every fourth Sunday, and he gets a whole lot of past players, international players, to help with the coaching.
That's awesome.
So he's doing this thing that, working on their skill development. Anyone can come. It's for free. None of the coaches get paid. So he's a guy that had a vision to do something that's just grown and grown and grown, and he makes it happen. So yeah, he deserves a big plug as well.
Oh, absolutely! What an awesome initiative. That's a great way to wrap things up. All right, Jim, that's been awesome. I've loved this chat. A lot of things you've been talking about really resonate with me, and how I see the game and how I want to coach my team. So it's been awesome, and I'm sure listeners have gotten a huge amount out of it. So really want to thank you for giving up your time to come on the show and have a chat.
Pleasure. And thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers. This episode of the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast is proudly brought to you by Rugby Analytics. Rugby Analytics is providing significant value to teams by giving players and coaches a transparent, non-biased way of measuring player performance. Coaches and players can identify strengths and weaknesses, as well as measure performance gains and losses week to week using their analysis. Send Rucky a copy of your game, and they will do the heavy lifting. Rucky is the future of sports analytics. Find out more on rucky.com, RUCKIE.com, or look for them on LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube.
Thanks for listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review via iTunes and keep listening for the next episode. You can also follow us via Twitter at RugbyCoachesCNR or via the website therugbycoachescorner.com. Until next time, keep sharing ideas to make the game better.